After 8 successive progressions from the group stage, in 2018, we didn't find any of our representatives crossing the borderline, and it's back to square one, trying to figure out how we can scale over the hurdle, which has consistently been our Achilles heel. 5, again, are going to Qatar, Cameroon, Tunisia, Morocco, Ghana, Senegal. And first of all, Kofi, let's start with the Black Stars. You look at this.
I mean, there's no better place to start from
other than the Black Stars.
Than our own Black Stars.
Well, the Black Stars, I think that having qualified for the first World Cup, was it 2006? And then making 3 subsequent appearances, 3 consecutive appearances under the powerful Kwesi Nyantakyi. And then
you always have to find out.
Yes. And then looking at all of the things that we did, I think that if you look at Ghana and its track record in the World Cup, I mean, we about have the best record in the World Cup. The most an African country has got into is the quarterfinals. Cameroon did it. I think Senegal also did it.
And the Black
Ghana
Stars
has also done it. So we're just a penalty kick away from the semi-finals in South Africa. But I think that if you look at the Black Stars team, we are really undergoing a particular transition. If you look at the teams that have qualified us to the World Cups in the past, we had members of those teams which had huge experience on the international stage, which were some of those players were world acclaimed. You understand? I mean, you could talk about Michael Essien, you could talk about Steven Appiah, you could talk about, albeit with not too much fondness, Asamoah Gyan. You could talk about somebody like Sule Muntari. These were established internationals, not just for the Black Stars, but in the various European clubs they played for. But we have undertaken a transition. Indeed, I mean, this was a team that nobody expected to go to the World Cup. I think that this team qualifying for the World Cup is as big a surprise as some of the shenanigans surrounding the collapse to the Black Stars. I think that nobody really, if you took the average Ghanaian, if you did a sampling of the average Ghanaian, less than 10% of Ghanaians felt that we could qualify. So this is, I think, qualifying alone is a bonus for us. But I've always maintained that we should not expect too much from the Black Stars at this tournament. I expect it to be part of the process to grooming a very strong team that can first of all challenge for harness on the African terrain, and then probably extend its dominance to the European scene or to the world scene, if I should put it that way. So the Ghana Black Stars find themselves in a very difficult group.
Portugal, Uruguay, South Korea.
Very difficult group. I mean, because
amongst the African countries, Ghana has the toughest group.
I mean, strangely, all the African countries find themselves in
Ghana's
not too pleasant.
It's crazy.
Yes, I mean, so you look at the Uruguayans. The Uruguayans still have Suarez. They still have Edson Cavani. They have a young prodigy in Nunes. They have Federico Valverde in the midfield. They have this ex-Arsenal boy who plays for Fenerbahce, Torreira. They have a mix of. They have very experienced players. I mean, you look at their goalkeeper, very experienced. Another one with Galatasaray, Musrella. So you look at the Uruguayan team. They have a mix of players who have been there, have seen it, and they have a mix of some of the very best young players in the world. You look at the Portuguese team, needs no introduction. I think that Portugal, if they play their cards well, could be one of the countries that could probably win the World Cup at this material time, because there's too much quality littered all across the various elements at play when it comes to the departments that they do carry. So Portugal's very strong team. I'm not too surprised that Alhaji Grusa mentioned that we need to be very careful about South Korea. A lot of people have not paid attention to these Asian countries. Listen, every Asian country coming to this World Cup is very much well prepared. I took a keen interest in following their progress. And South Korea, yes, they are one of those teams that's not too much related with a lot of star names, but they play as a proper team. They play cohesive football. They play as a unit. And for me, if there's a country that Ghana needs to be very much wary of, it has to be the South Koreans.
Dave, I don't know about you, but I think that we do not have a good record going into this tournament. But Ghana's participation in the World Cup, for me, if you rank it amongst the 13 African countries that have qualified for the World Cup, our record is about the best. We've played 12 games at the World Cup. We've won 4. We've won 3, drawn 3, and lost. I think how many? I think about 6. Yes. And if you look at the number of games we've played, Nigeria has arguably the best record. They've played 21 games, won 6, lost 4, and the rest they've drawn. But if you just oppose our numbers, Ghana has the best numbers, followed by Senegal. But I think over the last few years, the team has been going through some transition, like you said. We didn't qualify for Russia. We had issues in Brazil. Thankfully, we scaled through to Qatar. I am looking at this team under Otuado. We've played close to about 13 games. In our last 13 games, we've won just 2.
Yep.
And drawn just 3. The rest have all been defeat, and we've scored just 1 in the 2 games that we won. We do not have a very good record going into this tournament. The numbers are stacked, against us. I'm expecting that I spoke about. The players have already been called. We cannot, talk about the players that did not make it. The players that should be there. Those that are there. How should Otuado approach this game? I spoke about how I've seen him set his team up. He wants to do what Antonio Conte does, trying to play the wing-back formation. Either he goes for a 3-5-2, a 5-3-2 formation. Sometimes he tries the odd one out in a 4-2-3-1. Against Brazil, he experimented with a 3-5-2 in the second half. It did not, in a way, though we did not lose the second half, but we still, in a way, did not play well. In the first half, it was very, very poor. Against Nicaragua, he decided to go for the 4-2-3-1 when Ghana is in transition. In this group, listen, we cannot pitch our strength against Portugal and think that we can match them boot for boot. We cannot pitch our strength against Uruguay and think that we can match them boot for boot. Likewise, South Korea, you spoke about you taking a keen interest in these Asians. They are a very, very good side. They may not have stellar names, but I think that they will trouble us if we decide to take them for granted. I am expecting that Otuado would be very, very tight in all the games that he plays. For me, if we can play in a way which would afford us the opportunity to get 3 draws, I'm okay. We did not lose. We may not qualify, but if we get the opportunity to have 3 points and the group dynamics favor us, we can sail through. Because if we decide to open up, if we decide to be very attacking, the teams in there would roast us.
Listening to both of you, it only points to one part. That none of you have the belief the Black Stars will make it out of the group.
It's not necessarily about they having the belief. For me, our game against Portugal, which is our first game, we need to be very, 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 very pragmatic. Otuado has to be very load the midfield. Do not give the Portuguese any space to exploit, because imagine Rafael Leao against Odoi, or Rafael Leao against Terry Lamptey,
that's a squad battle in my opinion.
João Felix. They have enough quality. Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo maybe having all his issues, but there is enough quality to hurt us. So pack the midfield. Do not give them space to play their usual game. Bruno Fernandes can pick a pass. Bernardo. That guy plays within spaces, so close all the spaces. That's why for me, advocate that all our 3 games stick to a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1. You pack the defense, pack the midfield, have Iñaki as your sole guy up there. When you get the opportunity, hit these teams on the break, try to exploit his pace. That's how I'm expecting Otuado to approach this game.
Black Stars get into
0 points minus 8 goals.
I'm right on this particular
0
point.
points minus 8 points. I mean,
0 points minus 8
goals.
goals. Anyway, but let's look at Senegal. By far, I feel they are Africa's best placed side to make it beyond the group stages. Even though at the 2018 World Cup, they disappointed, didn't make it past the first round. But you look at this time around, they find themselves in a group with Qatar, find themselves in a group with Ecuador, who you underestimate at your own peril, because it's a blend of new set of stars who excelled at juvenile tournaments and have been given the opportunity to go up there and make the name for themselves. They've got within their ranks Moises Caicedo of Brazil, Raul Valladolid, Gonzalo Plata. They've got the experience of Ena Valencia as well. And they've got a coach who is giving these young chaps the freedom to go and do the things they love to do.
Yep.
So if you underestimate Ecuador, it's at your own peril. You've got Netherlands, who need no introduction. They didn't have a very excellent campaign at the Euros. But Louis van Gaal has come in.
The Nations Cup, they've been very good.
Nations Cup, they've been very good. He's transformed this particular team. And we know Van Gaal's prowess when it comes to
Very
managing
pragmatic,
this
stuck
particular team
to his own ideologies.
and all of that. Then there's Qatar, who I feel are the dark horses. They are playing on the back of home support. But if you look at the order in which Senegal do play their games, they navigate the biggest hurdle in the shape of Netherlands.
The Dutch team.
Then go on to play Ecuador, then go on
the
to
final
play
game against
Qatar. If you look at all of these combined, you feel Senegal hold the aces, get a good result against Netherlands, and fight a very good battle against either of Ecuador and Qatar.
That's true.
So putting all of this in there, I miss the fact that they could have some of the best African stars. Bamba Dieng of Olympique Marseille has been in phenomenal form this season for the French Giants. You look at Edouard Mendy, he's always been that reassuring individual whenever he's manned the post for Senegal. Yes, he's not had very good spells for Chelsea this season. Then there's a Sadio Mane factor, which could either play in their favor or play against them.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have Sadio Mane, then there's a different threat the opponents have to find out.
That's
Okay,
true.
who will Senegal now and everything to? But if there's Sadio Mane, then he's also Senegal's biggest star. He's a man that makes the team tinker. So his absence or his presence could either be a plus or minus, either way. But if Senegal are able, like I said, able to get results against Netherlands, I feel they can progress out of this group.
I agree with you. I think that for me, if Africa would do well at this World Cup, my eyes are on Senegal. They are Africa's last hope, because I look at the other teams, Morocco, Tunisia. West African teams have represented Africa very well since the World Cup, began, in terms of being able to at least get closer to the ultimate. Cameroon did it quarterfinals, Senegal did it in 2002, Ghana did it in 2010. The West African countries, so I'm not looking at these Maghrebian countries in terms of Morocco and Tunisia. Senegal, and like David said, if you look at the crop of players they have, they are the only team in the tournament in terms of the African representative that has the entire 26-man squad playing their trade in Europe. None of them, comes from the local league. It's because of the project that they have with Clairefontaine and that link with the French, federation. It's easy for the local players to transition into the French league. I'm seeing a replication of this particular Senegal team in that 2002 team, because likewise in that 2002 team, only 2 players were from the local league. 90% of them were playing in France, the like of Kalilou Fadiga, Diop, the guy who scored that goal, Papa Bouba Diop and Haji Diop. They were all playing they applied in France. This team likewise spread across Europe. Very, very good. In their last 13 games, Senegal has won 8. They've lost just once and drawn 4. Amazing record. And they've been beating some of the best, sides in Europe. If you look at what Cisse has done with this team, they've picked the friendly games they've played very carefully. They played against Bolivia because they are looking at the South American, opposition in Ecuador. They played against Iran, which they beat 1-0. They beat Bolivia 2-0. Because Iran, they are looking at the Asian, Qatar, the Asian, So they've been very, very strategic in terms of their participation in this World Cup. It's sad that they will not have their leader in Sadio Mane. He's been totally ruled out of the first game. But I'm thinking they are looking at possibly if they progress beyond the group stage, they could still have him, because I still think that he will not be fully fit for the second game and the third game. They do not want to risk him for subsequently if they go through the group stage. So Senegal, for me, my money is on Senegal, and I think that if they are going to face any hurdle in that group, it is going to be Ecuador, because I see the Dutch as winning the group. It is going to be Ecuador. If they're able to navigate Ecuador, they can, and for me, I took them as they beating Qatar. before Kofi, you have your take. I'm looking at how over the years or over the last 13 games, he's gone for a very attacking approach, a 4-3-3. It's all throughout. I monitored, and all throughout the 13 games he's played, he's tweaked his tactics just once against Bolivia, which is even a similar formation. He went for the 3-4-3 formation, very attacking, exploiting the wings, the pace of Sadio Mane and Sa. And these are brilliant players. Like you said, take away Sadio Mane, it may be a good omen. The players may say, Charlie, let's play for our Capito, or they may be so demoralized that it could come back to hunt him. I don't know what you think.
Well, a breakout star.
Yes, I mean, Senegal has a very good all-rounded team. And for me, like you rightly said in your submission, I think that they are one of the great African countries when it comes to talent, and they've never had shortage since they had that relationship with the Clairefontaine and the French Football Federation. I think that, listen, you go with what you know, and for me, I am very happy for Cisse. He knows his players. He's found a true identity. Yeah. He's found the formation that best suits his players. You understand? Like you said, I mean, if you decide to go for the 4-3-3, there are various tweaks you could deploy in the exactly. There are various tweaks you could deploy, but the one thing that I feel the Senegalese need to guard against has to be their mental fortitude. I don't trust them when it comes to their mental fortitude. I think that they have a very good team, but I don't think they are the strongest mentally. And if they are really, because listen, you mentioned the order of play for Senegal. They play against the Netherlands, they play against Ecuador, they play against Qatar. If in the unlikely situation Qatar has gotten results against Ecuador and then needs to play Senegal in the final game, that could be a battle of mental fortitude. You understand? So exactly the point. So I think that those are the things that the Senegalese, I think, if they do not qualify, it will be because of themselves. You understand? Because technically they have a very sound team. They have a fairly good coach. You understand? I think that
so actually they play Qatar second.
They play Qatar second, and they
yes. If they get a good result against, it
still comes back to what he's mentioned, because Qatar play Ecuador first.
Mm-hmm.
If Qatar get a result against Ecuador, Qatar knowing very well that
if they against beat Senegal, the Dutch side, they put themselves in a very good position. Yes, I mean, so I think that the Senegalese need to watch the mental side of the game. If they're able to overcome the mental struggles, because I've seen great Senegalese teams crumble when you expect them to thrive, and so I think that the Senegalese teams, they can only be their own enemies. But on the judgment of what we have on paper, they look strong enough to be one of the prime candidates to qualify alongside the Netherlands. But let's not discount the Ecuadorians. The Ecuadorians, Enna Valencia, we all know him. I mean, he's plied his trade in the EPL now. I think it's Galatasaray or Fenerbahce, one of those. Fenerbahce, you understand, and doing very, very well. Moses Caicedo is also in there. They have some very good players. So I think that you cannot discount the efforts of the South Americans also. But this should be an interesting group.
But you look at Cameroon.
The indomitable Lions.
You spoke about mental fortitude, and I think they are an African team that epitomizes.
They have it all.
That particular attribute, because you look at how they qualified, lost the game in Cameroon, went all the way to Algiers against the run of play, got a late winner against Algeria, who hadn't lost a game in Algiers in over a decade. They find themselves in a group with Serbia, Switzerland, and Brazil.
And the almighty Brazil.
But they played Switzerland first, Serbia second,
Brazil last.
And Brazil last.
Cameroon could qualify before they play Brazil and would not even need that Brazil game, because if they're able to get a point against Switzerland, beat Serbia, 4 points, they'll go through. Or even at best, at least they need at least 4 points to qualify. If they beat Serbia,
4 points will come down to the dynamics.
But if they beat Serbia, if they beat Switzerland, which I think has that ability to, for whatever, feel that, and it's true, they are Africa's World Cup, pioneers. in all the good things that Africa has done in the World Cup, it started with, Cameroon. In that 1994 World Cup in US, when Roger Milla always came from the bench to do the wonders. They had to literally hound the Cameroonian Federation to take him, likes of Makanaki, and all of that. That squad was very good. I've heard Samuel Eto'o try to compare that squad to this particular side. I think this particular side is not there. But they do have, some good players in there. Abubakar is there. There's our own Chupo Motin. He's been in amazing form for Bayern Munich. So being handled by Rigobert Song. For me, I think Cameroon will sail out of this group.
You
doubt? I think Cameroon will go through.
No, I don't think Cameroon will qualify.
Cameroon will be Serbia, Cameroon will be Switzerland.
Unless you've not been paying a lot of attention to the Swiss, in the last Euros, the Swiss knocked out the French, the defending champions. I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
And then in the World Cup qualifiers,
they knocked out Italy.
They were in the same group with Italy. I do not need to re-emphasize the pedigree that Italy holds when it comes to
actually went into the World Cup qualifiers as European champions.
Because they topped the group with Italy, went out of that group. The Swiss are the dark horses. For me, if there's any team you need to be wary of, it has to be the Swiss.
We're not playing African teams. The dynamics is different from playing European teams.
No, but I think that coming from where they have come from, and you see, the good thing about the Swiss team is that they have grown together, played together.
Exactly.
So you realize that there's more than enough continuity. I think that the good thing about the Swiss team is that they are always lurking in the shadows of the big teams, and they get the job done. They are a team that you can simply not underrate. Brazil is almost a constant. So we are talking about Switzerland, we are talking about Serbia, we are talking about Cameroon. I think that if the Cameroonians are going to make it out of this group, they really need to play above themselves. But I tip the Swiss together with the Brazilians to make it out of this group.
Swiss and Brazil.
Yes.
So we've done Ghana. All of you, your assessment has been that the Black Stars wouldn't make it out of the group stages. You've gone to Senegal. You think they would make it? You think they'll make it? I think we all agree Senegal will make it out of the group. But for Cameroon, you think they'll make it?
I think they'll make it. What about you?
I think Cameroon will go through.
They'll go through.
But all of this, like I would side with Kofi, is contingent on playing above themselves. Because everybody seems to be focusing on the fact that they have a very good team. Yes, they have a very good team. They've got a manager who's tasted the best of both worlds at the World Cup. Song has won World Cup matches. Song has been sent off at the World Cup. He was actually the first African to have been sent off at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So, and he's the youngest African to have been sent off also at the World Cup. So having all of this experience and leading this team, he would know exactly what it means to play at the World Cup. He would know what to tell the young ones who are going to taste the World Cup for the very first time.
Is he good enough a coach?
That would be a question he would have to answer, because back home opinions are divided about Song's leadership.
No, I agree with you. He's not tried and tested anywhere. The only time we've seen him coach this team is at the World Cup playoffs. I think that it was a wrong decision. They letting go of their coach after the AFCON. Yes, they were anticipating that host and win, but come on, even Brazil in 2014 could not conquer the entire world. How much more you, Cameroon? I think that was a rash decision from Samuel Eto'o. He literally made that decision on his own. For me, if they, like you said, I think they will go through at the expense of Switzerland. But Morocco, they sacked their manager right after the tournament, the AFCON. And one surprising thing was Hakim Ziyech making it back into the squad after that. Personal, more or less rumble with the manager. Morocco is being handled by a local coach. You see, ironically, all the African teams are going to this tournament with local coaches. Otuado.
They won't qualify.
All the African teams. No. For me, I think that. But they do have, some set of brilliant players.
Oh, yes,
has not had a good time at Chelsea. Hakimi, Amrabat, the good old Amrabat. There's Al Mazuri and all of that.
He's got his younger brother in there, Sofian, who's been doing an excellent job.
Exactly, but I don't want us to spend time. Morocco are not going through.
I feel Morocco had a chance,
really,
to have made it, but because you look at the fact that they have some quality players.
The former coach was Halilovic.
Yes.
Yes, that was his name.
Vahid.
Vahid Halilovic.
It had to be the fact that it was between Vahid or Ziyech.
Yeah.
They needed to choose one, and for Ziyech, he's not had the best of times at Chelsea, and the player they would have banged their hopes on was Amin Harit. And Harit, unfortunately, has been ruled out.
Yeah.
So it makes Morocco a very difficult opposition to look at because Enesri is not having the best of times at Sevilla.
But they play some good football.
They play when they want to play because Walid is a very good tactician. He masterminded WAC's CAF Champions League triumph. He masterminded their triumph in the Moroccan League. So he's got that pedigree. But you can't switch up the Moroccan League for the World Cup and expect that it will be the same dynamic. So I may want to align with you guys. You don't see Morocco.
They're in a group with
very difficult
very,
group.
very difficult.
Brazil, Croatia,
Canada,
Belgium,
Croatia.
sorry.
Belgium, Canada, Croatia.
Very
Croatia were World Cup finalists.
Yeah.
Belgium, golden generation, always stuck with very good players.
Maybe there could
Even
be a World Cup.
Canada.
Would they go out?
Which one?
With Morocco, would they go through to the
They
next
are
round?
not going through.
They go through.
No, they are not going
I think I
through.
have to
Finally, Tunisia, before we wrap up.
They are also not going through.
For me, that's why I said I'm banking my hopes on the West African team because truth be told, they have always represented Africa fairly well.
I look at the fixture list. They play Denmark, who for me are favorites to win this year's World Cup.
Denmark?
Whoa!
Yep.
Wow.
That's some bold prediction.
We'll talk about Denmark extensively when we
Yeah,
hit
and
the
probably
Europe
when we
preview.
get there.
Wow.
But Denmark, Australia, they'll get
France.
points against Australia, but they'll
France.
lose the game
Denmark.
against Denmark and
They are not
France.
going through. It's period. Maybe you can say we are biased, but they are not going through. Guys, we are just preparing the way for the World Cup. When does it start?
Starts on Sunday.
Sunday. So stick to Sports 101. If you have not subscribed to our channel. And we are shooting from Red Mango's apartment in Takrady. This is Sports 101, and it's our build up to the World Cup in Qatar 2022.